Imagine a world where a single man, in just over a decade, carved out one of the largest empires in history. This isn't a fantasy tale. It's the story of Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BC in Pella, Macedon, his birth was said to be marked by divine omens. As the son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias, greatness was expected, but no one could have predicted just how far he would go. From a young age, Alexander was a force of nature, brilliant, ambitious, and fearless. He famously tamed the wild stallion Bucephalus, a horse no one else could ride. His father, recognizing his potential, hired the greatest mind of the era to be his tutor, the philosopher Aristotle. For 3 years, Aristotle taught him rhetoric, philosophy, and science, shaping the mind that would one day conquer the known world. By the age of 18, Alexander was already a proven commander, playing a crucial role in his father's victory at the Battle of Chaeronea, which cemented Macedonian control over Greece. But his destiny truly began in 336 BC. King Philip II was assassinated, and at just 20 years old, Alexander inherited the throne. Any rivals or rebellions were swiftly and ruthlessly crushed. With Greece under his thumb, he turned his gaze eastward, to the colossal Persian Empire, his father's ultimate, unfinished ambition. In 334 BC, Alexander crossed into Asia Minor with an army of around 48,000 men. This was more than an invasion. It was a clash of civilizations. His first major test was the Battle of the Granicus. Outnumbered, he led a daring cavalry charge across the river, shattering the Persian lines. It was a stunning victory that opened the western part of the empire to him. City after city fell, either by siege or by welcoming him as a liberator. A year later, in 333 BC, he faced the full might of the Persian army, led by King Darius III himself, at the Battle of Issus. Again, the odds were against him. But Alexander's tactical genius was unparalleled. He identified a weak point in the Persian formation and led a decisive charge straight for Darius. Panicked, the Persian king fled the battlefield, leaving his army to collapse and his own family, his mother, wife, and daughters, to be captured by Alexander, who treated them with respect. Instead of pursuing Darius immediately, Alexander secured the entire Mediterranean coastline. This was a strategic masterstroke to neutralize the powerful Persian navy. He undertook a brutal 7-month siege of the island city of Tyre, eventually building a causeway to breach its walls. From there, he marched into Egypt, where he wasn't seen as a conqueror, but as a liberator from Persian rule. The Egyptians welcomed him, crowning him pharaoh and, at the Oracle of Siwa, declaring him the son of the god Zeus-Ammon. It was here, in 331 BC, that he founded the first and most famous of his many cities, Alexandria. With his naval flank secure, it was time to finish the job. Alexander marched into the heart of Mesopotamia for the final showdown with Darius. At Gaugamela, Darius had gathered a massive army, rumored to be over 250,000 strong, complete with scythed chariots. It was the ultimate gamble. Alexander's army was dwarfed. On the vast, flat plain, his tactics had to be perfect. And they were. He drew the Persian cavalry out to the flanks, created a gap in their center, and once again, charged directly at Darius. For the second time, Darius fled for his life. The Battle of Gaugamela was a total victory. The Achaemenid Persian Empire, which had dominated the region for 2 centuries, effectively ceased to exist. Alexander marched into Babylon and Susa, seizing unimaginable wealth. He then went to Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of Persia. In a controversial act, he burned the Grand Palace to the ground, a symbolic revenge for Persia's invasion of Greece 150 years earlier. With Darius a fugitive, Alexander declared himself the new king of Asia. He pursued Darius eastward, only to find that the Persian king had been murdered by one of his own governors. Alexander gave Darius a royal burial and hunted down his killer, positioning himself as the legitimate successor, not just a foreign conqueror. But Alexander wasn't done. His ambition knew no bounds. He pushed further east, into the unknown territories of Central Asia, modern-day Afghanistan and Uzbekistan. Here, he faced years of grueling guerrilla warfare. It was in this region that he met and married Roxana, the daughter of a local chieftain, a move that was both political and, by all accounts, a love match. In 327 BC, with a mixed army of Macedonians, Greeks, and new Asian recruits, he set his sights on his most ambitious goal yet, India. He crossed the formidable Hindu Kush mountains and entered the Punjab. There, he encountered King Porus, a formidable ruler with a powerful army that included a terrifying new weapon, war elephants. The Battle of the Hydaspes in 326 BC was one of Alexander's toughest fights. The rain-swollen river, the terrain, and the elephants all posed immense challenges. Yet, through brilliant strategy, Alexander triumphed. He was so impressed by Porus's courage that he allowed him to keep his kingdom, making him an ally. Alexander wanted to push on, to reach the ends of the world at the river Ganges. But his men had reached their limit. After 8 years of constant marching and fighting, thousands of miles from home, they were exhausted. At the Hyphasis River, his army mutinied. For the first time, Alexander had to relent. Heartbroken, he agreed to turn back. The return journey was a disaster. He split his forces, sending part by sea and leading the rest through the treacherous Gedrosian desert. Thousands died from heat, thirst, and starvation. It was a horrific ordeal that tested his leadership to its core. When he finally returned to Babylon in 324 BC, he found his empire in disarray, with some of his governors ruling like corrupt tyrants. He executed several and began a series of reforms to consolidate his vast, multicultural empire. He organized a mass wedding, where he and his top officers married Persian noble women, a policy aimed at fusing the Greek and Persian elites into a single ruling class. He started planning new campaigns, an invasion of Arabia, a circumnavigation of Africa. He envisioned a world of blended cultures, shared knowledge, and unified rule. But his vision would never be fully realized. In June of 323 BC, after a prolonged bout of feasting and drinking, Alexander fell gravely ill with a fever. For days he battled for his life, but his strength failed him. He died at the age of just 32. On his deathbed, when asked to whom he left his empire, he allegedly whispered, "To the strongest." His death unleashed chaos. Without a clear heir, his vast empire was torn apart by his ambitious generals, the Diadochi, in decades of bloody civil war. Yet, Alexander's legacy was indelible. His conquests shattered the old world order and spread Greek language, culture, and ideas across 3 continents. This fusion of East and West kicked off a new era, the Hellenistic Age, a vibrant period of scientific discovery, artistic achievement, and philosophical inquiry that would shape civilization for centuries to come. Alexander the Great remains one of history's most fascinating and complex figures. A military genius, a visionary leader, a ruthless conqueror, and a flawed man driven by an insatiable desire for glory. In just 13 years, he redrew the map of the world and left a legacy that continues to echo through time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of a legend, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from history. See you in the next video.